Showgirls. This film may not be very big, but it sure is hot. Unfortunately, there will be no particularly steamy scenes in this video. YouTube and TikTok may become overwhelmed and delete it. But rest assured, there are plenty of them in the movie. Nowadays, no one makes films like this anymore because it would offend too many overly sensitive people on Twitter. It's no wonder that movies are becoming increasingly dull and predictable. And all we can do is sigh deeply and long for the days when people weren't so sensitive. Erotic thrillers took Hollywood in the early 1990s. All studios wanted to make their own explicit movie after the $350 million box office success of Basic Instinct. This trend gave rise to films like Final Analysis, Silver, and Disclosure. However, the trend quickly died down, and Bruce Willis missed out on joining it as his Color of Night, where he also appeared without underwear, came out too late. The final straw was Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls. The failure of this film put an end to not only the genre of erotic thrillers, but also to one of the most interesting Hollywood studios. Carlco Pictures, which once gave the world Terminator 2 and Total Recall, almost went bankrupt in the mid-90s due to a string of unsuccessful small films it financed. Although Carlco continued to work on several scripts, the studio could no longer put them all into production. Of course, it's obvious now that Mario Kazer and Andrew G. Vajna's studio should have gone with the epic action film Crusade, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, instead of Cutthroat Island and Showgirls. But at the time, there was a risk that Crusade's budget would exceed $100 million, or even make it the most expensive movie in history. On top of that, the script was incredibly dark, so the movie would likely be rated R. As for Cutthroat Island and Showgirls, they cost $100 million combined. It is not surprising that the studio chose them. One of the films was intended to be a typical summer hit, while the other targeted mature audiences with a more serious tone. As a result, the $70 million Cutthroat Island ate up almost $100 million of the budget, while Showgirls ended up costing over $40 million instead of the planned $35 million. The filming of Showgirls was relatively smooth, unlike Cutthroat Island, where fights and dismissals were a daily struggle. However, when the film was released, about 100 actors who had lined up to audition for Paul Verhoeven's project probably thanked higher powers for not being a part of it. Charlize Theron wanted the lead role, but she was rejected after the auditions for looking too cute and not fitting the required type. Other actresses who wanted to be in Showgirls but were turned down included Angelina Jolie, Sharon Stone, Denise Richards, and Pamela Anderson. During production, Showgirls was intended to be an R-rated film. However, because of ongoing bankruptcy proceedings at the studio, no one was keeping an eye on Paul Verhoeven, and he went wild. Later it became obvious that an R rating was out of the question. It was easier not to release the movie at all than to cut out all the content that troubled the MPAA. With nothing to lose, the studio released the movie with an NC-17 rating, making Showgirls the most expensive movie ever with that rating. Furthermore, the movie had a record-breaking number of cinema releases. Showgirls was released worldwide on September 21, 1995. Most of the celebrities who showed up at the premiere left the cinema before the movie was over. Steven Spielberg also left halfway through the film. Later, Steven requested a copy of the movie so that he could watch it in the privacy of his own home. He explained his departure by saying that he was taken aback by what he saw on the screen. Rumor has it that one of the film's main actors, Kyle MacLachlan, dashed out of the cinema even faster than Spielberg. The actor, however, insists that this is slander. He says that the only reason no one could find him after the end credits was because he was sitting in the darkest corner of the theater, wondering how it was even possible to film something like that. For Elizabeth Berkley, who played the lead role in the film, Showgirls turned out to be a disaster. After the premiere, her agent abruptly cut all contact with her. She started receiving only supporting roles in low-quality Hollywood movies, most of which went straight to video rentals. Despite a $45 million budget, the film only made $20 million at the box office. Showgirls won 7 Golden Raspberry Awards. Director Paul Verhoeven attended the ceremony to personally accept the awards for Worst Picture and Worst Director. 5 years later, at the Golden Raspberry Anniversary Ceremony, the movie received another award for Worst Picture of the Decade. Showgirls' failure alone wouldn't have caused Carlco Pictures to collapse. However, it was followed by the even bigger flop that was Cutthroat Island. This was too much for the studio to handle, and it closed down in 1995. What's funny is that Showgirls became a big hit on home video 5 years after its release. MGM Studio, which acquired the film rights, made over $100 million from video sales and rentals. This made Showgirls one of the 20 most successful films in the studio's long history. The film's director, Paul Verhoeven, and screenwriter Joe Esterhazy had plans to make a sequel. In the sequel, the filmmakers intended for Elizabeth Berkley's character to take on Hollywood. One can only guess how the public would react to a demonstration of Hollywood's dark side, given the outrage that a similar depiction of Las Vegas caused. Thank you so much for watching, subscribe, and stay tuned.